Welcome to Love and Hustle. We share unfiltered stories of marriage, entrepreneurship, and scaling to seven figures without losing sight of what matters most.
The raw, the real, the sacrifices, and the lessons learned the hard way.
This is Love and Hustle. Hey guys, and welcome back to Love and Hustle. I'm Brittany, and this is the podcast where companies, couples, and chaos collide. And on today's episode, I'm going to be talking all things mommy makeover. So, obviously, I have 4 children. Those of you who follow me, I have 4 children, and over the last decade, I have spent 9.5 years growing my babies. And so I'm having a mommy makeover, and there has been an abundance of interest and so many DMs with questions. And I even did a Q&A yesterday, and there were so many questions that I decided to record a podcast episode for you guys. So this is the podcast that's raw and real and unfiltered. So here it is. And I know all the mom listeners are curious, and some of you maybe have already had your own mommy makeover. I know I've had countless photographers that have shared with me advice on going back to work. And today we are going to be talking about it. I would have loved to have Zach join me in this episode, but unfortunately we are like crazy busy because we're about to take 6 weeks. I'm taking 6 weeks off. So he and I both are just really buttoning things up here in the next 24 hours because I have my surgery tomorrow. So I want to go ahead and just dive in and answer questions that I received over on the gram. So first, there has been a ton of questions about what exactly am I having done. So I have spent a total of 6.5 years breastfeeding, and I have 4 full pregnancies that I carried all the way to term. So I spent in total 3,004 days in total growing children, whether it was breastfeeding or physically pregnant, and sometimes doing both at the same time. I have been pregnant and breastfeeding. My body has done a lot. It has grown a lot of life. And I do have diastasis recti, which is a separation of the tissue in the center of your abdomen. This is, even though there are tons of people who will tell you otherwise, this is actual tissue damage from the stretching. It cannot be repaired it cannot be tightened with working out. Tightening happens from muscles. Tightening does not happen to tissue, connective tissue. And so that tissue does need to be repaired. For so many women, they have diastasis recti and don't even know that they have it. From what I learned from surgeons, is that if you've had 3 or more children, it is highly likely that you have diastasis. And so while I am fit and I have a relatively flat tummy compared to some people, some bodies, I should say, that is something that needs to be addressed. And when they do diastasis repair, they recommend doing a full tummy tuck, removing the loose skin from pregnancy, because when they actually repair that connective tissue and take that, that outward curve of your belly that is just basically permanently there, when they repair that, the loose skin is even more prominent. And so they recommend just taking it out while you're there. I talked with several surgeons about not doing a true tummy tuck and to solely do diastasis repair, and they all recommended not to do that. They said the results will not, you will not be happy with them. Simply going in and repairing the structure without addressing the outward appearance of your skin from that structural compromise in your abs will only, it only addresses the underlying issue, and the aesthetics of it will actually be even more obvious. So I am having a full tummy tuck. I will have a scar. They do ask you to bring your favorite swimsuit, which I like a skimpy swimsuit, guys. Okay. So I have a very specific swimsuit that I love, and she'll make sure that my scar runs underneath that bikini line. So it will run basically hip to hip, and I will get a new belly button. That is probably the part I'm the most nervous about, is what is my belly button going to look like? So the belly button I have now is a postpartum belly button. They call it a hooded belly button, where it kind of looks like it just has like a little hooded top. And that's very normal. Those of us who have had children listening to this, you know what your belly looked like before and what your belly button looked like after. And I told the surgeon that I'm really proud of my belly button. Like, I don't want the belly button I had. I want the belly button I have right now. So she did tell me that it's really hard, that a lot of times it starts to come down to what they can do surgically. And belly buttons are really challenging. When you hear of people having revisions, it's more than likely a belly button revision. And so I'm hopeful that I can get a similar belly button to what I have right now, but we shall see. So basically the skin from the incision line to the top of your belly button is removed, and then they pull you together, that is what makes a tummy tuck by and far the most painful procedure. Every person I've talked to that has had both a breast augmentation or a lift and a tummy tuck has said, expect the tummy tuck to be 3 to 4 times worse than the breast lift. The other thing about a tummy tuck is that you cannot stand up straight for several days, if not weeks. And the reason why is because that incision that runs hip to hip has to close. And so when they do this, they like hinge you in the OR to bring you closer together, to sew you shut. And you don't want to stand up straight because you will break that incision. So the other part that makes it really uncomfortable is the fact that your back has to be hunched over for such a long period of time. I am very happy that I have an adjustable Tempur-Pedic bed right now, something I purchased when we moved into our new house. And yes, it is something I'm like, hey, works out great because I'm going to need it. Additionally, I am having a breast lift and an implant, and they will also do an internal bra. For those who are listening that are familiar, they are using what is called the dual plane technique, where the implant is placed under the muscle, but it's not fully under the muscle. It creates a very natural appearance. They are using silicone implants. And when I decided, when I started having my consultations, they're like, what is it that you want to change? And for me, it was the upper fullness. Breastfeeding and pregnancy completely depleted the top part of my breasts. And I call it the cute part. Like, I joke, my babies ate the cute part. And I have no upper cleavage at all. Excuse me. So all of my breast tissue is at the base. And to restore that upper fullness, you need an implant. Yes, you can do fat transfers, but there's a lot of pros and cons to both. And I chose an implant. So I'm I will have a moderate profile, which if you guys are familiar, Kylie Kardashian has moderate profile. Now hers are significantly larger than what I will be getting. Mine will likely somewhere end up between 315 to like 375 cc's. I do have very wide breasts, which I didn't know, and I naturally have very close together breasts as well. So there's so much that goes into the selection of your size. It comes down to very specific measurements in order to achieve the look that you want, and it comes down to like the actual profile in combination with the size of the implant as well. So I learned that there's a chart that they use based on your measurements, and that's how they guide you into the size. So you might have a friend who has bigger boobs than you, but actually has a smaller CC, and it also comes down to like their frame and the existing breast tissue. There's so many variables. So I will also have, I will have a lift. That was one of the really big things that I had a lot of mixed opinions on. I saw 4 surgeons. I'll get into the surgeons in a second. But I've always had one side that's larger than the other, just slightly larger than the other. Sisters, not twins, right? And my larger side there's certain measurements that are considered needing a lift. And so essentially my larger side needed a lift and my other side did not. So I was right on the cusp of like, should we do a lift? Should we not do a lift? And 2 surgeons were like, I would do a lift. Long term, you're going to be a lot happier. And then 2 other surgeons were like, skip the scars, go bigger on your implant. And essentially saying, let's put a bigger implant in, and rather than lifting your tissue and putting a smaller implant, let's keep the tissue where it's at and just put bigger implants in. And I actually had a surgeon who follows me on Instagram reach out to me, and I was just sort of sharing about my experience, and she cautioned me. She's like, I just want to warn you. She's like, don't feel obligated to come do a consult with me, but you will have surgeons tell you to not do a lift, and they will give you a bigger implant, and you will end up with very large breasts. And if that's not something you want, just realize that. And so that kind of like tipped me off. So by the time I got to my second and third consultation, or my third and fourth consultation, I was like asking a lot of questions around the lift and why they would do it, why they wouldn't do it. And the ultimate decision is that, like, I don't want to have to go and have a lift in 5 to 10 years. Like, I just would rather do the lift now and have those measurements already be high. Like, so there's a range of centimeters. And right now I'm at the cusp of needing a lift. And so I would rather just go ahead and put me on the high side with a lift and allow gravity to take hold over the next 10 years and for me to still be within that range than to put implants in and then 5 years from now need a lift anyways. So, and it was really interesting to hear, because the doctors were like, okay, then you have a lift. And I'm like, but I don't want to have surgery again. Like, I don't want to do this again. And so it started to feel like it was more about like the transactions than it was about the results with some of those surgeons. So to sort of wrap up what I'm doing, I will also have, so I've had a lot of people ask me the type of lift. It's the type of lift where there's an anchor underneath and my scar will span almost my entire breast. The surgeon that I decided to go with, I came in for a second consultation. She actually drew exactly where my scars would start and stop and allow me to really take in the long-term picture of what my body was going to look like. And that was huge for me to be able to see. So I will have the anchor scar where they go around your areola. They, cut a vertical line and then all along the bottom of the breast tissue. And then they do the lift and then the implant. I'll also have an internal bra that dissolves over time, and it just helps to support the implant in the healing process and build your own collagen to support the implant. I'm also going to have an upper bluff. So that is the removal of the loose skin on your eyelids. So I am almost 40. This is my 40th birthday year. And my eyelids are just getting heavy. It's natural. But my left eye specifically is heavier and there's more loose skin on that side than the right. The reason why is because when I use the viewfinder on my camera, I wink with my left eye. I close my left eye. And over time, the skin has become more loose on my left eye. So all of those of you who shoot live, congratulations. Your eyes will not be lopsided like mine. But after a decade of shooting, and that's also, keep in mind, I worked in 2 other portrait studios before this. So it's well over a decade now. It's more probably like in total 15 years of using my eye repetitively. So I am having an upper bluff. This was something really easy to add on to the surgery. And it was one of the reasons I chose to go with this surgeon, because they offer these add-on procedures so that while you're out, and you have all this downtime, you can have additional work done. So I also am going to be having a TRL laser. They're going to be doing more of like a lower level laser, but they're going to go a little heavier on my under eyes. This basically causes micro trauma to your skin. It helps you to produce collagen and ultimately address fine lines and wrinkles, which, being that I'm almost 40, I am definitely noticing it in my under eyes and like crow's feet. So yes, I'm super excited. I've had lasers before, but more that address more for like color and pigmentation. This is a more aggressive laser that is going to target fine lines. So super excited for that. My procedure in total will be likely between like 6, it's probably going to be around 6, maybe even 7 hours. I will be out for 6 weeks, and my amazing team will be taking care of my clients. I have Sarah, who does sunsets, and then Shirley, who does our newborn sessions, will be filling in for me. So Shirley is a newborn photographer on the other coast, but we are dear friends, and so she'll be driving in to take care of my clients, specifically the newborns, and then Sarah does all the other sessions already. So it's going to be really, really awesome, and I'm just really happy I have a team that'll take care of my clients to the utmost highest level in my absence. And then I'm going to be working on some really incredible projects while I'm on bed rest, basically. So, okay, probably the most common question I got is, how did you choose who you are going to do this procedure with? And I'm going to be honest, guys, it was very hard. My first consultation was with a surgeon that came highly recommended. I mean, you guys, like, I did my research. I talked to my clients who have had tummy tucks and breast lifts. I went into Facebook groups and I searched mommy makeover, tummy tuck, breast lift, breast augmentation. I read every comment. I started to take notes of like surgeons, and this one surgeon came up multiple times. He also recently had done a tummy tuck for one of my clients, and he had done a breast lift and fat transfer. She actually let me see her results when she was in my studio. Such a sweet, sweet client that just like was like, I want you to know all the things. I'm happy to like share everything with you. I almost did this procedure with him last summer. Like, I literally was discussing dates. I saw that a couple of babies on the calendar had come early, and I was going to have this like big stretch where another baby was likely not going to come. And I was discussing dates, and I'll be very honest, he was an incredible surgeon. I felt so confident in him, but his nurse, who was overseeing scheduling and pre-op stuff, was so short with me, so unfriendly, and I just was like, it ruined it for me. It was just, I felt like a burden. I felt like a burden to them. And while, yes, it was planning it last minute, there was like a huge lack of customer service, and to be spending over $20,000 and to be responded to in an email with literally like 2 words is not acceptable. If my employees ever did that, they wouldn't work here. Like, it's just, you don't say a 2 to 3 letter response to somebody who's potentially, especially, and I thought to myself, I said, if this is how I'm being treated and I'm still, quote, a lead, I can't imagine how I'm going to be treated once I've actually paid them, right? Because, you know, normally your customer service hat is on extra straight when you're in the lead inquiry process. Anyways, so I didn't completely rule him out, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to go do some other consults. Like, I felt so good about him in every review and my interaction with him and everything that, like, I literally was going to have the procedure with him and not even go consider other consults. But then I was like, you know what? Let's go check out some other ones. So there was another female physician that came up several times who had an outstanding reputation as well. I did go to see her. She asked me a lot of questions, and she kind of kept saying, well, what do you want? What do you want? And I'm like, well, I don't know what I want. Like, all I know is this is what I want to look like. Like, you tell me, like, how do I get to this? And she was really like kind of encouraging me to not do a lift. But I will say that she was awesome at talking me through scarring, and her staff really sold her. Like, her staff, like, I asked, is there any way? I was like, I see so many women with tummy tucks and breast lifts that have had like dramatic weight loss. Like, do you have patients that you can show me, you know? And they like brought me in the office, and they had made an entire folder of like before and afters of people who had body types like me. And keep in mind, the first surgeon, I asked for that from his nurse, and she was just like, sorry, we don't have that. Like, if it's not on our website or our Instagram, it doesn't exist. And I was like, certainly there's somebody who maybe you can show images, like you can't post them publicly, but you can show them for reference of like patient consultation, or like, there was just no effort to really help me to like understand what I was going to look like with the nurse of the first surgeon. The first surgeon, like, his reputation, his results spoke for himself. His nurse completely ruined it for him. And I know this is really interesting to hear, because we are business owners, those of you that are entrepreneurs and listening to this, and I think it's really important to understand how your team and your client experience impacts whether people invest with you or not. Not just your results, not just your pricing, right? The second surgeon, like I said, she was really awesome. She just like, when I asked about the scar, and she's like, well, let me take you back there. Let me like pull you into a room again, and, you know, we can like mark it out and you can see it. And really, like, the staff went above and beyond to like sell her. But there was something about her that felt really wishy-washy that made me really concerned. Like, I just was like, I want you to be like, okay, if this is what you want, this is how I'm going to confidently do that for you. I will say they did let me like try on a bra and put the implants in, but like, I have enough breast tissue that I feel like that was really hard to envision. Like, they're like, put a t-shirt on, throw an implant in your bra. Like, and I was like, I don't really, like, I'm not, this isn't like helping. It wasn't helping me to make a decision. I saw another female surgeon. By the way, just side note, every surgeon I saw was board certified plastic surgeon. So just want to make sure I clarify, like, that is, I didn't even consider cosmetic surgeons, and I didn't consider anybody who wasn't board certified. So the other female surgeon that I saw, I just knew from the minute I walked in that there was just something that didn't align. Like, the energy of the lobby, the staff seemed really confused. Like, they didn't know what was going on. They, like, didn't know who I was. There was somebody else in the lobby. Like, I think there was like a language barrier, and they, like, I don't know if I just caught him on an off day, but then I got into the office, and it was really odd because her, like, if you could imagine going into somebody's like boardroom or like desk office, like, imagine like a large oversized secretary desk and then like an exam room. So you're like sitting at a desk, and then you like get undressed in her office. And then there's a chair, like an exam chair that you would have like in an aesthetic practice, right? That you lay back in. But it was just really odd. Like, I was like getting naked in her office. And like, and then something about her coordinator, her patient coordinator, just like her energy was like very odd. It just was weird. And then when the surgeon came in, she, I'm talking to her, meanwhile I'm like sitting in just a robe, it's fine. And I feel like I should give you guys a little breakdown of each scenario and how they varied. So the first two physicians took me into a like formal, like, sitting space office that was separate from the exam room. It was like, asked me open-ended questions like, tell me why you're here. What is it that you'd like to change? What, like, if you could walk away with results, what would it look like, right? And of course, I'm like restoring my upper fullness, potentially repairing my abs, like all of that. Whereas this, I'm just in her office, and, I'm like essentially the previous two physicians, there was two parts to the appointment. There was the let's talk at a formal desk, and then there was the exam room of like, okay, now you get naked and I look at your boobs. And I touch your body, right? Whereas this doctor, like, the two came together, and for me, it was just odd. But then she made a comment that to me felt very, I don't know if demeaning is the right word, but she asked me what bra size I was wearing. And keep in mind, again, so I have a very small band, like, I have very small rib cage. I have very wide breasts. So like the side of my breast tissue is basically under my armpit. They're very wide. I have a very odd bra size. And I tell her my bra size, and she's like, you're not wearing the right size. And I was like, okay. Like, I don't even know like why the comment was necessary. And frankly, my bra fits me. So like, maybe we have a discrepancy on sizing here, but I did get fitted by not Victoria's Secret. I got fitted. I wear Third Love. If you guys are familiar, Third Love makes really unique bra sizes. And like, I think they go all the way down to like a 30G. Okay, like, they carry very unique bra sizes. They carry awesome, by the way, breastfeeding moms. Their breastfeeding bras are hella awesome. They're $70. They're not cheap. Go buy it. Just save yourself. I had 4 pregnancies. By the time I found Third Love, I was like, where has this been all the other pregnancies? So Third Love, amazing. I actually remember when I got the initial bra, they have you send photos of you in the bra when you need sizing. And then they will switch the bras for you. So I actually went through like a sizing process with a bra specialist. And I'm not saying that the surgeon doesn't have that, but like it just felt really, it really just felt unnecessary. And like her tone with me was so demeaning. And she literally looked at me, she's like, I don't even need to feel your abs. If you've had 3 children, you have diastasis. If you've had 4 children, you have diastasis. I don't need to feel your abs. And it just was like just kind of brushing me off. Like, whereas the first surgeon was like, hey, I want you to like lay back. Okay, now I want you to like flex your abs. Okay, flex your abs. Okay, flex your abs. And he wanted to feel like just how severe my diastasis was. She just kind of was like, just blew me off, like brushed me off. And the energy was like, no. Those of you who are here in Tampa, I shared a glimmer of this in my Instagram stories. And those of you who have had consultations with this particular surgeon blew up my DMs. You guys knew exactly who I was talking about. Again, and it's just like, it amazes me. Like, I don't understand how somebody can be getting like literally $20,000 to $30,000 for a procedure and you speak to people like that. It's just, it's one thing to speak that way in a, listen, I'm an ICU nurse. I worked with surgeons. I get it. Some of them have terrible bedside manner, but there's a difference between working in a hospital where you don't get to choose your surgeon, right? Like, you're in an ICU setting. There's only one surgeon in this hospital that does that procedure, or there's 2, and it is what it is. But this is an elective surgery. So for me to be spoken to like that for something that is a choice, and a choice that's very expensive, you got to put your customer service hat on. You got to talk with your patients. You can't talk at them. And I was just immediately put off by it. And like y'all, I have a threshold that's rather high. Okay. I understand how surgeons are. I worked with surgeons that had awful bedside manner. I'm fairly like immune to it. And so for me to find it jarring is rather, I can't imagine somebody who has 0 experience with that type of behavior. All that to say, I didn't go with her. And they kept following up with me. And I was like, hi, I sent a previous message saying I wasn't interested in moving forward. And they literally followed up like 3 times. And I was just like, hi, like, can you please remove me from your database? Like, it was obnoxious, honestly. And listen, like, I get follow through, like, what do they say? There's fortune in the follow through. I agree with that 100%, but like, get the memo. When somebody says that like they're not moving forward with you, like, stop. Like, stop texting them, stop following up. It's one thing to send like a newsletter, but it's another to be like, hi, would you like to go ahead and book your procedure? Like, it's like, did you not get it? And then I had a 4th consultation with a female physician that is within a practice with a few other plastic surgeons. She's like fairly young / newish, but she has been doing this for quite a while. She is board certified. I think like in comparison to the other surgeon on staff there, she is not as seasoned as him, but her results are incredible. I do have some clients who know her personally, and it was really reassuring to hear from them about her integrity, her dedication to her practice. And then I actually saw somebody comment on a photo of their before and after on her feed. And so I DM'd them and was like, hey, I wanted to reach out. I saw that you had a procedure. Can I ask you a couple of questions? So her energy was just very calm. I will say that the experience was a little different. Okay, so remember how the first 2 I told you guys, I went into like a private like office boardroom and then into an exam room? And then the third was like a hybrid of the two. Hers was very similar. It was a hybrid of the two, but she didn't have a desk. It was more just like an exam room with like some bookcases in it. And so it didn't feel as odd to me. The other thing that was really cool is when I walked into the room, the nurse that was with her that day taking notes was the nurse that delivered Chloe. And so I immediately was like, oh my God, you delivered my baby. And she's also a badass nurse. And obviously I used to be a NICU nurse at the hospital I gave birth at. And I know a lot, I stayed in touch over the years, and I had heard that she was like one of the best nurses. I also think too, just fun facts, when you're a nurse and you're a nurse physician, you're in healthcare in general, especially if you're in like labor and delivery and you go to have your baby and you let them know who you are, they're going to give you the best staff. They're going to give you the best staff, and they're going to give you the best room, because that's what they do. It's like, it's just what you do. Like, you want to make sure your people, like, not to say that, like it's any different, but it's just like, there's another layer to it because the person who's the patient understands it. And so I remember afterwards, I was texting like one of the anesthesiologists who's one of my clients, and she's like, oh my God, you have one of the best nurses. Like, and then I messaging about like a client who, was, anyway, so another nurse said, that I had one of like the best nurses on the staff. So, really affirming to like now walk in, and apparently they recruited her, because they heard about her reputation. So it just put me at ease. Right. So I think that I really appreciated about this doctor is she talked with me, and instead of having me try on a bra with the implants or just doing a physical exam and talking me through the procedure, she sort of literally took my breast and like lifted it and was like, okay, do you want your cleavage to look like this? Do you want it to look like this? Or do you want to look like that? And she's like, look in the mirror. Okay, now I'm going to do that again. Look down. And she was showing me the different profiles of implants. And I looked at her and I said, looking at my anatomy, knowing my age, knowing the results I want, do you think I need a lift? And she's like, 100%. She's like, you need a lift in order to have the results and the size that you want. And that was so affirming to me, because previous physicians, the two other females, were very wishy-washy about it. They were very like, skip the scars, get a bigger implant, come back in a few years. I remember I was talking about how I was slightly different sizes, and one of the surgeons said, well, that's your brand. And I was like, but it's not the brand I want. Like, I would like to have a little bit more symmetry, And so she's like, yeah, I would address your symmetry. I would make sure that your scars match, even though one side doesn't need as much of a lift as the other. Your scars, we'd make sure that they match. She talked me through the diastasis. The part that I was really impressed with is this particular plastic surgery office does have their own, they're the only one in the entire city that has their own surgical suite on site in their office. So it makes scheduling just like a lot easier, and their accessibility to implants, like they just have everything that they need there on site, whereas when you go with another surgeon, they're going to order the range of which they think, and it gives you, it's sort of like our studio itself, because our framer is like right here on site. We have access to things that otherwise we wouldn't have access to, and so it has its perks. The part that really blew me away was after. Every single physician gave me a folder of information after, and all of the folders were black. This was the only folder that was white. And inside that folder, there was paperwork about why being board certified is so important and how their credentialing and education is superior to other surgical offices. They talked about how they have their on-site surgical suite. They have concierge services for you post-op. They offer tons of add-on services that nobody even mentioned to me at any of the other offices. For me to take 6 weeks of me not shooting, I'll probably likely ease back into work, doing virtual appointments and things like that for design, but actual shooting, 6 weeks. And so for me to be able to have a laser, to get my upper bluff, to do all of these other things while the downtime, I mean, they were squeezing, right? And as a business owner, I appreciate that. I'm sell to me, tell me how I can take advantage and make the most of this, right? And so overall, I decided to go with the fourth surgeon. It was really hard. The first surgeon, his reputation, just everything I've heard about him is absolutely incredible. I've had multiple clients have tummy tucks and breast lifts with him. Multiple people rave about him. Yes, a piece of me wants to be like, hey, get your staff in check, because they're not selling you, you're selling yourself. And I just felt like this other office, collectively across the board, was on a completely different level. And I felt confident in her confidence in the procedure. I felt like I was being talked with and not talked at. I felt like she understood what it was that I was trying to achieve without getting lost in what her style, so to speak. So I have provided a ton of inspiration photos for them, of what I want to look like. I also have a really great photo that I took of myself when I just found out I was pregnant with my first baby. And I remember being like, oh, these boobs. Oh, hello. I gave them that photo as well. And so they have a very detailed, inspiration of what I hope to look like on the other side. So tomorrow I have my procedure. So tomorrow I think I am the first surgery. It is a long procedure. It will, like I said, it'll be somewhere around 6 hours. And I want to see the other questions. I answered a ton, but I'm going to go back and see what else you guys dropped in over on Instagram. Okay, the most popular question was the surgeon. Recovery at 6 weeks. Okay, so somebody asked if I will share before and afters. The other question I got was, will you share before and afters? I have a lot of mixed feelings about this. I have not decided. I know that the surgeon will take video while you're under, and parts of me do not want to see that. As far as the before and afters without my face, I think I'm probably okay. I'm honestly even okay of my before and after of my upper bluff. But when she does show before and afters of breasts and tummy tucks, you usually don't see their face. However, you guys follow me very closely. There's very high viewership on our Instagram stories. And while I am very raw and real, there's a part of me that is sort of really hesitant to put my naked body out there. I have a feeling if you look on her page, it would be very easy to figure out which body is mine, just based on the patients that are in there. There's tons of people who've had significant weight loss. You guys are going to know that's not me. And you guys also know what I'm having done. So I did have somebody reach out to me on Instagram who had a breast lift with her and an augmentation just like me. And actually her before and after was literally, her before is me right now, and her after is exactly how I want to look. And I was so grateful that she allowed that, because that was a really big thing for me. Is I wanted to be able to see my body in their portfolio. And there's a ton of people who, have breast lifts and have tummy tucks, but they've had significant weight loss. And I don't fall into that category. And so it's been really helpful that I can see myself in certain patients, but I'm also really hesitant. So I don't know. I am going to video Zach's reaction to my before and after, and I will probably do a before and after with some of my close friends who have already seen my boobs, seen all the goods between breastfeeding and just life. So I'm probably going to do a recording of their reaction of seeing the before and after, because I just think it's going to be fun to see. So we shall see. I'm definitely open to sharing my upper bluff. And it's more just the naked part I'm not sure about. So stay tuned on that. And then let me just check what other questions I had. Okay, the last question that I got that was really good is, what did pricing look like? So I joined a Facebook group, and you guys, pricing is wild. It is so different. I mean, keep in mind, you can go to other countries and have this done for a fraction, which I do know people who have done, and that was just not what I was interested in doing. I really wanted to find somebody locally just because of my 4 kids. I didn't want to spend several weeks in another city. That was just not practical. So decided to stay local. I did only consider board certified plastic surgeons. There is a difference between a plastic surgeon and a cosmetic surgeon. And there is a difference between being a general surgeon versus being a specifically board certified surgeon. And they do have their specialty. So I was only considering physicians that specialized and were board certified and were plastic surgeons. And the overall range was, now keep in mind, 2 surgeons did not want to give me a lift. So those quotes came in the 18 to 22 for both procedures. Now also keep in mind that there's anesthesia fees, and it's the longer you stay under anesthesia, the it's if you're already under, and you're not going to pay the anesthesia fee twice. So if you do a breast lift and then you do a tummy tuck separately on 2 separate occasions, you're going to be paying to go under twice, versus if you were to do both procedures at the same time, you're paying to only go under once. And so it's almost like there's a fee to go under, and then there's a billable hour type scenario. So it makes sense to do both procedures at the same time. So that was very cost savings, is that I was doing both together. So the surgery, for doing a breast augmentation and tummy tuck, it was between 18 and 22, thereabouts. The doctor on the higher end of that had significantly more experience, and then the one who was more quote newer was on the lower end. And then the physicians that were wanting to do tummy tuck, breast lift, breast augmentation, the quotes were 25 to 27, somewhere in there, like 25 to 27. So the quotes are like relatively in line. Like no one was like really far off. I have heard of these procedures independently costing 30,000 plus independently, meaning only doing one. And so it is very subjective to, I would assume, cost of living. Getting a breast augmentation in Beverly Hills or Miami is far more expensive than getting it here in Tampa. So the surgeon that I decided to go with, I decided to go with, by the way, Dr. G, with Watt Cosmetics. And I think you say her name, I'm probably going to totally botch this right now. Dr. Giardot, Alexandra Giardot, Dr. G with Watt Cosmetics. They did offer a small discount for being a healthcare practitioner, and then I also got a discount because I paid in cash. So that wraps up part 1 of the Mommy Makeover series. I'm going to come back for part 2, and I'm going to share a lot more of the emotional side of this decision, sharing a little bit about my perspective as a mom who's had 4 children, what I've shared with my girls about this decision that I have made, sharing a little bit about Zach's support in this decision for me, and a little bit more of like the emotional aspects and closure of what is my baby making chapter. Already getting a little choked up saying it. So we'll be back for part 2. I plan to record that tonight. My surgery is tomorrow at 6 a.m. And so part 3 will be post-op. If you guys have anything that you want to know more about, shoot over to my Instagram right now, Brittany Elise Photography, or Brittany Elise Official. Send me a DM, ask me questions. I'll be sure to include it in the next episode. So thanks for joining. And then also thanks for all y'all's support and allowing and accepting moms, and honestly, anyone, doesn't matter if you're a mom or not, but celebrating people finding the body that they feel confident in. So until next time.